Welcome to another edition of the AfterBuzz. How you doing? Brandon Coates, your host here. Had a week off last week. I was off on vacation. We'll get to that here in just a minute. As always, got to remind you guys, if you're not signed up for the notifications, make sure you're hitting that stuff. Hit the bell right there and all that good stuff, just in case, so that you can get all of the little updates that we got here on the old KLAQ YouTube channel. So anyway, click the like button, all that other stuff, subscribe, notifications, blah, 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 blah. So, welcome back to another edition of the AfterBuzz. Like I said, we did have a week off. If you guys would like, you can always join into the chat, questions, comments, anything. Let me know you guys are there. Chime on into the YouTube chat right there. Got a few different topics that we're going to talk about today. We'll cover some baseball talk. We're going to cover some soccer talk. We're going to get to some HBO shows, and been doing a lot of reading recently, and I'm liking it. I'm liking the reading. And I've actually wrapped up a book while I was on vacation. So thanks for being back here on the old AfterBuzz. And just in case you're watching this on a replay, if you're not able to watch this live, we do this every Wednesday, 10:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time here on the KLAQ YouTube channel. Obviously, last week being one of the exceptions because I was off on vacation. And I've thought about doing an AfterBuzz from vacation, just live with my phone or something, and it never works out. I don't really want to do it. So anyway, welcome back. The wife and I, we did take a little trip to Austin. She is currently working on some schooling stuff, some furthering education for her career, and we are going to Austin every couple of months. So we're heading out there so she can do that stuff. I get to take some work days while I do that, which is highly beneficial for me. So the one thing you'll notice in regards to the morning show is that every couple of months I'll be off on like a Monday, and then either that following week at some point, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to start to hear a lot of different things on the show. Like the bits and pieces that you hear coming out of commercials, going into commercials. People seem to like the more you know segments that we have Duke voice. So that's what I do while she's in school, because she's actually in classes. So what I'm doing is I'm in the hotel room or somewhere else, and I'm cranking all those things together so that we can keep those things updated every couple of months. And the more you know stuff is pretty great. So, I write some, Buzz writes some, we rip some from Reddit. I'll be, one of the first people to tell you right now is that, Reddit's a great source where we'll use some of those ideas there as well. So we put those up. We send all that stuff over to Duke. Duke voices it, and then I piece them together for you. Anyway, so Austin's great, man. I love going to Austin. We drove this time, which isn't the first time that I've driven to Austin. I think that we kind of lucked out because a couple of years ago, the wife and I drove to Houston, and son of a bitch, that's a long drive because you get to about hour 8 or 9 on your way to Houston, and you're like, I got how much more time before I get there? Like, you still, at least a couple hours away, because usually it's about that time when you're kind of getting into San Antonio, and you still got a pretty lengthy little trek there in front of you. Austin's not so bad. One of the things that does make Austin difficult is you tend to be on the highways a lot, not I-10. Like, I-10 can take you straight from El Paso to San Antonio through Houston, whereas I-10 eventually splits off and kind of heads more south, and then to head north, you need to be on like kind of those back road highways, which it helps for an easier drive because then you're not just doing this thing. You get that 1,000-yard stare going on where you're on just a straight stretch of road and there's nothing. No, it was pretty nice because I drove there. The wife drove back. She had no problems with it. She was nervous. But she drove back and didn't really have any issues with it. She was, when we got back into town, she looked at me. She's like, I didn't realize that I could do it. It was that easy. Because I try to make it to Austin with her so far, she started this at the beginning of the year. We've made a trip in January, March, and now in May. So I'm trying to go every time so that, makes it easier for her with me going with her. And I like hanging out with my wife. So I try to do it every single time, but there might be a couple of times where she needs to go by herself, depending on money, scheduling, and all this other stuff. So we wanted to make sure that she can, tackle that drive, or she's able to drive in Houston, Austin, by herself. So Another thing that we did while we were there over Memorial Day weekend. We went and checked out Lake Travis. That place was dope, man. We hit up the Oasis, which is like that big restaurant. It's kind of like on a cliff. It overlooks the lake. The restaurant's really I mean, it's cool. It's a great view. But the service was really sketchy and it was pretty overpriced food for what you're getting. I mean, if you're only going to be there, um, you know, in Austin once, and maybe you want to go check it out. But I wouldn't say that it's an absolute necessity of something that you need to do. But you do need to find something to do on Lake Travis there in Austin because it's pretty dope there. We ended up going over to a water park that's there, and it's actually the water park where if you've ever seen the pictures online of the people watching Jaws on a big screen while they're floating in the inner tubes in the lake, it's that. Like that's the water park that we went to that shows that there. At least they are a water park that does that. But it was pretty cool. So yeah, Austin, pretty cool town, man. I could totally see myself living there at some point. It's kind of got the best of both El Paso and Portland, which I like. The one thing that I really started to hit us this time, I acclimated to it a lot quicker than the wife did, but the humidity factor, especially when you get into these summer months, you got that area over there, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, where you're getting some of that stuff, that weather that's coming there off the Gulf, that humidity, and that, I mean, it'll really suck it out of you there. So she didn't get used to it as easily as I did, but it's something that you can ultimately deal with in the long run if you are going to move to Austin. I do have a quick update on Rockstar 101. We have been a little bit delayed in getting the next episode up. That's because Shim has been busy with some things. Obviously, I was off on vacation. I wrapped up the editing job of one over the weekend, and then I need to reach out to management and stuff and find out about them getting that thing uploaded here because we kind of got sidetracked when we started to record the last time, and the last recording session was like a month ago. It was when Avengers had just come out, and he and I were planning on talking about Avengers, but he asks me a question about parenting, and that ends up taking a whole episode. So we recorded that episode first, and then we recorded the Avengers episode. So if you've been following Rockstar 101, you know that the Avengers episode's already been released, while the parenting one, that's the one that hasn't been released yet. So we kind of flip-flopped those for you in regards to what has to do with which one is posted on the podcast first. But again, if you want to check it out, it's Rockstar 101. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. It's anywhere where you get your podcasts at. Go ahead and subscribe to it, rate it, review it, let us know what we're doing or how we're doing, or if there's anything that you guys want brought up on Rockstar 101, because we're more than welcome to bringing up questions. If you have any questions that you want on Rockstar 101, you're more than welcome to shoot us a question on Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter. It's at Brandon Goats. You'll notice my last name has an ES on the end. The Twitter handle does not. So you can hit me up, or you can even talk to Shim and shoot him a message at Shim Moore. It's SHIMMOORE if you want to ask us a question on Rockstar 101. But we're going to get back into getting those things up more consistently. It was a little bit hectic here with him doing the tour. He had to go back to Los Angeles, and things just really kind of got bogged down. And then he was bouncing back between Los Angeles and Australia. And that makes it really difficult to try to figure out what time we can record because they're technically 18 hours ahead of us. So when it's 6 p.m. Thursday here, it's already noon Friday there. Like that's how far ahead that they are. So it can be difficult trying to plan that schedule. But I promise we will get better at it, and we're going to get them up more consistently for all you guys. Javi is saying, I've heard that in Austin there is a whole bunch of racist people. I haven't met any. I'm a white dude, and I'm married to a Mexican woman. And as far as I know, we haven't experienced any of that. I've thoroughly enjoyed Austin. I keep wanting to say Houston, Austin. Thoroughly enjoyed Austin so far. I think it's a great town. Highly recommend going and checking it out. Moving along here on this week's AfterBuzz. The next topic we're going to get to, baseball. And I'm actually excited about baseball this year. I'm following it more than I usually do. When I was a kid, baseball was my sport. That's the one that I latched onto most. That's the one that I played all the way through high school. That's the one that ultimately, like, my career was derailed my sophomore year because I ended up having to have shoulder surgery. just because my shoulder was all jacked up. And in case you guys didn't know, so I've had now 3 shoulder surgeries, one on the right, 2 on the left, and the one that really kind of boned up the whole baseball career was that the ligaments in the joint were too long. So rather than it sitting nice and snugly like that, there's a little bit of a gap there. So when I would throw so hard the shoulder joint would actually slip out every single time that I threw. So the surgery was between my sophomore and junior years in high school, and they had to go in and just kind of cut all the ligaments off and tighten them up so that it would sit more snugly in there, which has led to all kinds of other shoulder problems down the road. They constantly ache. I had the same one done on my left shoulder after high school because I was trying to work out, and I still remember as I was doing it, I'm trying to do like a bench press, and anytime I would try to build up in weight, I would get to about right here, and the left shoulder would just go, and it would slip out, and I would lose the weights. So I'd have to go get a second one on that. But anyway, so that was how the whole baseball career got derailed. And in case you didn't know, I am a Minnesota Twins fan. The reason for that being, back in Portland, when I was growing up, the Portland Beavers were the AAA ball club for the Minnesota Twins. And when I was a kid, they used to have the Major League Ball Club, the Twins, come play an exhibition game with the Beavers at the very beginning of the season. And that was something that I thought was really cool. And that helped me become a Twins fan, but I was also a huge Kirby Puckett fan. I was devastated when the guy died because he was one of those sports figures that I always wanted to meet. Probably the big baseball figure that I would really want to meet today would be Cal Ripken Jr. Because after Kirby Puckett retired from baseball, I still followed the Twins a little bit, but I also kind of latched on to Cal Ripken Jr. a little bit because I really enjoyed him as a human being, as a baseball player, the whole package. Like, the guy was amazing. But I was Twins fan through and through. And when I was in Portland a few weeks ago for Gary's funeral, there was some moms that are still friends with my mom, and they were the moms of some of the guys I played baseball with growing up, from I think maybe age 10 or 11. And one of the moms specifically asked me, she was like, "Are you still a Minnesota Twins fan?" Because when I was maybe 13 years old or so, her son was also a big Minnesota fan, and I think they had family back there, so they had taken a trip over the summer to Minnesota, and they came back with all this like Minnesota Twins gear, and they gave me a bunch of it. It was super cool, and I still have all of it. I've got this big box at my mom's place that is just filled with like baseball memorabilia, but like more of like Minnesota Twins memorabilia, Kirby Puckett stuff like that. Which reminds me, by the way, I've got to congratulate my mom on this edition of the AfterBuzz. She bought a new house. She was rather excited about it. She's been looking for a new house, the one that we grew up in. It's just her. It's too big. But what's super cool is it's a family friend that's buying that house. So it makes that transition a little bit easier, knowing that my mom has been in that house for 32 years now, and knowing that the person who's buying it is somebody that we know and is a friend, it's a pretty cool deal. And it was a really weird transition there because my sister was at this like teaching conference, runs into this guy. They find out that they have some friends in common, and it come to find out one of my best friends in high school, it's his brother-in-law. So he made this comment to my sister. He was like, "Yeah, you guys grew up in that really great neighborhood where you had those huge fields behind your houses." And that's the way that the development was done in my neighborhood, is that you would kind of get these houses that were built in a circle, and then in the middle of it, it was just a big field where we could go play baseball, football, soccer, whatever we wanted to out in this big grassy field. And he told my sister, he goes, Melissa, that's his wife, he was like, she was spoiled, man. She grew up with that stuff. We're trying to buy a new house. None of these places have any of that stuff now, and it's just and it's making it very difficult for us to actually find a new house to purchase. And my sister was like, "Yeah, well, coincidentally, my mom is selling her house." So they came over, they looked at it, they put a bid in, and they're the ones that are purchasing the house. So it's pretty cool. And big congratulations to my mom also, as she purchased a house on Monday. She'll be moving in about a month here. So congrats to Mama. But yeah, so that was the reason why I'm a Minnesota Twins fan growing up in Portland. You got the Portland Beavers out there. It's a AAA ball club. And if you're not following baseball this year, the Twins are pretty stinking good. They have pretty much been right around the top in the standings. They're kind of starting to run away with the AL Central, but of course, I want to be a little bit trepidatious on counting my eggs before they're hatched on that one, just because there's a whole lot of season left over. We just started June. So a whole lot of stuff can happen in regards to the Major League Baseball season, but they've looked pretty stinking good, and they're doing one thing the Twins never do: hit home runs. They broke the record for the most home runs by a Minnesota Twins team for 1 month in the month of May. Like they've just been mashing the ball. So it's pretty exciting, checking out the box scores every morning and always seeing that little notification on my phone pop up that say that the Twins won, because it's happening a whole lot more frequently this year than it has in the past. Fern Dog says, yay, she found her house. See, stay positive. Yeah, she was super excited, man. I got an email from her where she forwarded me the listing to the house that she was moving into. And I got to talk to her later that day, man. And she is super, super excited about this house. I think it's a perfect location for her. It's the perfect kind of house that she's looking for. There is a second story, which is something that she didn't really want, but it's a room. It's not a full second story with multiple bedrooms, bathroom, closets, and all the other stuff. It's kind of just like a playroom. So if I were to be in town, my kids there and some family friends' kids are there. It's like just, kids, adults want to be adults, go upstairs so that we don't have to be, constantly corralling you and stuff. But no, it was a really cool house. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to check it out the next time I visit Portland, which will probably not be for another year or so. But now transitioning from baseball to soccer talk in regards to Portland, somebody brought it up in the Facebook chat today. Does Portland like hockey or soccer more? And then somebody else had responded they think that it would be hockey just because of its proximity to Canada. And that's not the case. I mean, hockey is fairly big, but I mean, it's not anywhere near that you would get in some of those other northern states, especially like Minnesota, Massachusetts. It's big. All those like really northern states. Hockey's not as big. It's relatively big because they got the Portland Winterhawks. That's a WHL, kind of like a minor league hockey team. They've been around for ages. So then they're always a blast to go check out. But no, it's definitely soccer. It's been Soccer City, USA for a while. I know that Pele, I think he had some ties there to Portland, playing in the city of Portland. You've got the Portland Timbers now. And that's crap. That's the thing that I was going to bring up was why Portland is Soccer City, USA. And there's an article that I found on NBC Sports. Now, this is a few years old, so some of this stuff, it's kind of outdated, but not really, because the place that they play, at last check, it was Providence Park. I don't know what it's called now because it seems like they've changed names of their stadium 5 times in 2 years. But it talks about all the different reasons that why Portland is Soccer City, USA. I remember soccer was always big growing up. It was one of the main sports that I played. I ended up latching more onto baseball. I kind of wish I would have stayed playing soccer, though. I played 1 year of football. And that reminds me of I got to go see Kazi yesterday. He was in town for lunch. I'll bring that up here in a minute. But I played 1 season of football in high school. I played freshman soccer, sophomore football, and then only baseball all 4 years. I wish I had gone back to soccer because I was pretty stinking good at it. But here are the top 5 reasons why Portland is Soccer City, USA. Oh, and they specifically say here that in Seattle isn't, because that's the huge rivalry, the Seattle Sounders and the Portland Timbers. Number 1 is Timbers Army. You may not love them, but you can't deny that the Timbers Army is the top supporter group in the MLS. In the MLS, really don't even try. I mean, it really is. Number 2 is championships. Both the Timbers and the Thorns have won titles in their respective leagues. Of course, this was a few years ago. Since then, the Sounders have won an MLS title. Portland made it to the MLS championship last year, but they lost to Atlanta. Number 3 is collegiate soccer. Unless you're in North Carolina or maybe South Bend, Indiana, you won't find a community more supportive of collegiate soccer than Portland. The Pilots have a storied tradition, especially on the women's side, and 2 national championships. The NWSL. It's not even close. The Thorns draw 3 to 5 times the number of fans versus the Reign. That's the Seattle women's soccer teams, the Reign, whereas the Thorns is the Portland soccer team. and then of course the championship thing too. Whereas the Thorns have some championships there, and women's soccer is exciting. Like normally, like I can watch the NBA, but I can't watch the WNBA. But women's soccer, I love watching it just as much as men's soccer. I love watching the Thorns play, and then especially when the Women's World Cup is around, I'm going to be following that one as much as it's almost even more so when it comes to the women, just because they win. Like they've actually won a title before. They've won the World Cup, whereas on the men's side in the USA, they haven't. Which is why I think that their whole argument of equal pay completely misses the point. The women should be making more than the men if you're talking about success on the field. Of course, you do need to tie some of it to revenue, like how much are they bringing in revenue? Which if you follow the women, it's not like the men are making an astronomical or bringing in an astronomical amount in comparison to the women. That's not happening. But yeah, it's just as exciting to watch. And then the fifth one here is the MLS attendance and season tickets. Now, the way that you can look at this is two different ways, because in Seattle they play where the Seahawks play. They play at that gigantic NFL stadium, and they lead the league in total attendance, but it's still only pulling in 2/3 of the stadium, maybe, because it's a 68,000 seat stadium. They're bringing in about 44,000 fans. Would the Timbers pull in that amount? Probably. They would be pretty close to that. Now, at this time, the capacity for the Portland Stadium was only 22,000 people. But they have since expanded it. So I'm not sure what the exact number is now, but they have expanded the size of the stadium to fit more fans, and they're still selling out. And on top of that, if you want season tickets, there's like a 10,000 person wait for season tickets for the Portland Timbers. So that, again, is why, and the whole conversation started there with, somebody asking if Portland liked hockey or soccer, which one they preferred. But no, it's soccer's an absolute blast. I'm going to the Locomotive game coming up on Saturday. So if you guys are out there, if you see me, stop by, say hi. I love going to the Locomotive games as well. Frank Sharples, soccer, you mean live action foosball? Yes, I do mean live action foosball, Frank. So the Locomotive games, if you guys are out there, go check them out. And I've become obsessed with the Estrella, is it Michelada? That they have the mango one. Holy crap, that's a good beer right there. I'm not going to lie. That thing's delicious. All right, moving along here on the AfterBuzz. Again, if you guys have any questions, comments, by all means, bring them up in the YouTube chat. Sometimes I just kind of keep rambling, and it feels like I'm rambling. But if you guys would like to, chime in the YouTube chat, you are more than welcome to do that. Let me know you guys are there. HBO shows. So while I was on vacation, I saw that the Deadwood movie was going to be released coming up on Friday, this being last Friday. And I said to myself, why don't I go check out Deadwood? So I did. It was a little rough at the beginning, but it didn't take long for that thing to really get going. And man, Ian McShane is just awesome in that show. That guy is absolutely brilliant. Obviously, Timothy Oliphant, who you would always expect to be top notch. That guy's brilliant as well. And I think I'm on episode 11 of season 1. And it's been brilliant so far. It's an incredible show. The thing that made it rocky at the beginning was they kind of were teasing things, but they weren't explaining some things. The Calamity Jane character is obnoxious to me. Like, I cannot stand the Calamity Jane character. It's too much sometimes, but it's still not enough for me to not enjoy the show, because it's so incredibly well done. And I would watch Ian McShane play Al Swearingen all day, every day. That guy is absolutely flipping hilarious on that show, man. So if you haven't seen Deadwood, by all means, do what I'm doing. Go back and rewatch the whole series. And then I've been seeing some reviews. I haven't read the reviews because I don't want spoilers, but I've been seeing just kind of the headlines of the reviews that apparently the movie's pretty stinking good too. This wasn't just a simple, oh, let's bring this back just for chits and giggles. No, it was done incredibly well. The other show that I watched, I wrapped this up before I started Deadwood, was Barry. Barry's good, man. The one actor, I'm blanking on his name now, and I kept looking it up while I was watching the show, so this specifically wouldn't happen. But of course, now that I'm on the AfterBuzz, it's happening now. But there's the one actor. He also played Zaz on Gotham, and he plays NoHo Hank. Anthony Kerrigan is the guy's name, and he's one of those guys. I don't know, is it alopecia or whatever, where your hair doesn't grow. So he's got no hair on his head, he's got no eyebrows, no nothing. That dude is awesome, man. That guy is phenomenal. He was great in Gotham because the character of Zsasz is truly just the psychopathic killer. But they kind of gave it a different spin on Gotham where he, through the storyline, kind of became more of a comedic role sometimes. And that's kind of what he's playing here. Not kind of, it's what he's playing in Barry. He's a very comedic role as NoHo Hank. And he's brilliant. If you guys get a chance to check out Barry, by all means, check it out. And if you haven't seen the deep fake of Bill Hader as Arnold Schwarzenegger, you have to do it. I'll send the link right now. I'll put it into the YouTube chat for you guys, where it's Bill Hader. He's doing an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger on Conan. And while he's there, somebody went and did a deepfake. And if you aren't familiar with what a deepfake is, that's where it's just they superimpose somebody else's face onto somebody else, and it looks almost flawless. And this one was so brilliantly done, as it starts out as Bill Hader talking as Bill Hader, and then suddenly when he starts doing Schwarzenegger's voice, you look at it closely, it's like, holy crap, that's now Schwarzenegger's voice. You don't see the transition almost. It's so incredibly done. I just put the link in there for you guys on the YouTube chat. So if you want to, go ahead and click it and go check out that video. But yeah, so that's definitely a must-watch too, as well as Barry. Another one that I got to start, and this is where it's just becoming so much damn time for all these TV shows. It's to the point now that the wife is watching 90 Day Fiancé without me because I'm already falling asleep, which the 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After ? Is amazing. It's awesome. But she's watching it, so she's got to clue me in. She sent me a clip last night as she was watching it and I was asleep. And it was the dude from Moldova, who we think is hilarious. I couldn't hear what he was saying, though, so I got to ask her that later. What the exact thing that she was sending me was. Really quick here. Javi says, I want to watch Deadwood. El Bifo is saying, is the Deadwood movie a good standalone film, or do I need to watch the series first? I want to watch the series, but I also want to cancel the HBO app now that I've watched Chernobyl and Game of Thrones. I'm glad you just brought up Chernobyl, El Bifo, because that was the one I was just going to get to, is that I've heard that show, I think it's the highest rated show on imdb.com right now, is Chernobyl. So that's going to be one of the next shows that I will transition to. I don't know if the Deadwood movie is standalone because I haven't seen it, and I've been kind of trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible. But I do know that the show is awesome. I know that you're going to want to cancel the HBO app, but I would recommend keeping it for now so that you can get yourself through the series of Deadwood into the movie of Deadwood. And then even after that, you got Big Little Lies coming up on Sunday, this Sunday night. You've also got, oh man, what else? The Watchmen series that looks amazing. Like there's a lot of just really, really good stuff coming to HBO that I was with you, man. I was so ready to get rid of HBO. Like I thought I'm going to sign up for HBO here at the beginning of Game of Thrones, and then when it's over, I'm going to cancel it. And it did its job. I mean, it got me to sign up, and man, the more I thought about the Game of Thrones endings, the more it just sucks. Lisa's got a brilliant post. You guys need to go check it out at buzzadamshow.com, and it's all about like the abandoned storylines in Game of Thrones. Like it's all these things that they made a big deal about that they never finished. It was like, oh, we'll just kind of forget that thing's there. So go check that out. Lisa's got that blog up at buzzadamshow.com, where it's just like all these things like, who was Lord Varys writing those letters to? It's like they made it a point to show him filling out these letters of all these different notes about, oh, Daenerys is going nuts, Jon Snow is our true king, blah, 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 blah. And then you never find out who he's writing them to. Like, it was so stupid. There's a podcast from Portland, Oregon that I listen to, Isaac and Suk. It's Prime Time with Isaac and Suk. It's on 1080 The Fan up there. So that's when we drive, like when we drove to Austin or Houston or any of those times with the wife, I got her hooked on the 1 hour of the show that they do that's not sports. It's called the Club Hour. It's the 1 hour that they do that doesn't have anything to do with sports. It's entertainment based. more pop culture kind of stuff. And so I downloaded a bunch of those for the drive. And so we backtracked and we're listening to them talk about Game of Thrones, which, by the way, the one guy on there, Big Sook, nailed the ending. Like, absolutely called it how that thing was going to finish. And it just listening to them talk about it made me hate the finale even more because they were even pointing out some things that I wasn't even thinking about. And I'm like, dude, they're right. Like, this thing sucked. It was not fun. But yeah, some people are mentioning right now here on the YouTube chat that it was, did we freeze it all? Mine actually did. I got that kind of spinning wheel thing, but I just refreshed my page and it popped right back up. Although I don't know why I'm telling you this because if it's frozen, you're not seeing this. So there you go. But if that happens again, just hit the little refresh button. Anyway, to wrap up this edition of the AfterBuzz, I've been doing a lot of reading lately. I've got my comics. You guys kind of know the storylines I'm following there. But I've been a little bit delayed on some of that stuff. While I was on vacation, I think I spent a whole day and I read The Firm, the John Grisham book. Phenomenal book, especially like the final 150 to 200 pages. It's just super intense. Great read. If you haven't read The Firm, by all means, do it. Because one of the things that we like to do is that over kind of near where I live on the west side, they have one of those bookstores that's kind of linked to the library, I guess. And I mean, you get a book for 50 cents, a buck, maybe. And my kid, God bless her, she's into reading, man. And I'm going to keep pushing that thing as much as I can. Like, I want her to read as much as possible. So she's got the Junie B. Jones books, Judy Moody, and, books that are right at her level that are kind of pushing her to continue on a little bit. So what I'll do is when she wraps up with the book, if she wants another one, we head on over there. She gets to pick a few out. It's like $1.50 for like $3 when it comes to the kids' books. So it's brilliant. I love doing it. So while I was there, one time I bought The Firm. I wrapped that up while I was on vacation, and then before we headed to Austin, I headed over to the bookstore. We wanted to pick her up a few books before we left because it was just, the wife and I going to Austin. And then after that, I wanted to have another book for myself because I felt while I was on vacation, I was going to wrap up The Firm. So I got Stephen King's Finders Keepers. I only read the first chapter, and I really kind of bought it in a haste because what happened was I wanted to get a book similar to Game of Thrones. If you guys have any suggestions, by all means, hit me up in the YouTube chat and let me know because I wanted something very fantastical in regards to wizards, dragons, swords, magic, all like a really good story like that. That's not Game of Thrones. That's not Tolkien. And so I'm sitting there at the fantasy thing. I go to websites. I Googled, what other series can you read that are similar to Game of Thrones? And it's really dependent on what they have there. I'm not seeing a whole lot. It got to the point the wife had already picked out a book. The kids got like 3 books waiting. We need to get home because we need to go pack because we're leaving the next day for Austin. And I said, fuck it. And I grabbed Stephen King's Finders Keepers. So I'll let you know how that one goes. But I'm like 1 chapter in at this point. And now I can't even read that book without thinking of Buzz going, oh, yeah. Because if you missed that whole topic, we were talking on the air about American accents and the Maine accent. It's one of the funnier things we've ever done, and it was pretty damn good. But that was how Stephen King writes for a lot of the characters. I haven't seen it pop up yet. Like nothing, nobody starts their conversations with "oh yeah" like that. But yeah, so I'm reading Stephen King's Finders Keepers. On that note, if there's anything else you guys want brought up, if you got a question, a comment, anything, by all means, hit me up in the YouTube chat right there. And I'll answer it here. I'll give you about 30 to 60 seconds before I wrap up this edition of the AfterBuzz if nothing comes through. But yeah, to wrap this episode up, I got to see my buddy Kazi yesterday. It was great. It was awesome. If you don't know who Kazi is, it's Kazi Cheragino. He's an actor. He's been in Los Angeles for about 20 years now. Grew up with that dude. The link to the football comment that I made earlier in Kazi is he and I played football together in high school that one year when I was a sophomore. And he actually posted this story. This was years ago on Facebook about it had something to do with say a memory with all of your friends. And this was obviously when people's friends lists were really small. And he mentioned one about me where we both played defensive back. and the ball was coming in, and I was right there, and he was right there, and he came over and he actually snatched it like right in front of me, and he got the interception. And then we got to the bench, and as we were sitting there getting a drink of water or something, he made the comment. He's like, "Hey, sorry about stealing your interception there." And I just looked at him and I was like, "Hey, as long as one of us got it, I don't care. Like the team's got the ball, I'm good to go." And that was just a really random story that he brought up on Facebook that I think I'd forgotten about. But it was really cool seeing Kazi. If you don't know what he's been in, those the Mastercard, I think it's Mastercard or Capital One credit card commercial, the one with the Vikings. What's in your wallet? He's in those commercials. He's also been in episodes of Grimm. Of course, he had the link of growing up in Portland to being in Grimm as well. Oh gosh, what else has been? I believe he was in Sons of Anarchy. I think he was. Um, Shit. What else? What was some of the bigger roles? I'm now completely blanking on some of this other stuff that he's been in, but he's been in just an absolute ton of stuff. Oh, the big one. He was in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you see the episode where it's one of the final episodes of one of the seasons, this was a few seasons ago, and it's when Dennis created like a fake cult for Mac. And the two guys that they get to join the cult, it's one of them is Dax Shepard and the other one's my buddy Kazi, and they sit around and work out all day. And it's a hilarious episode, but go check that out. That's my buddy Kazi. And hopefully he's got a lot of fun stuff in the works. There was a really random show that I saw him on. It was like a clip of something, and I mentioned it to him yesterday, where I was watching this thing on TBD, which is, I think it's an HD channel for CBS, I think is what it is. But it's like here in El Paso, it's 4-2. And he, um, I'm watching this thing, and all of a sudden, like I see him in the background, and I was like, "Dude, that's Kazi." So of course, I'm gonna stick on it and watch it. And it's this really weird thing where there's this like deal going down, and there's all these guns, and every gun's just this big, but it's this huge fight scene where Kazi ends up getting his head blown off, like a guy shoots him and his head explodes. But all the guns are like this tiny, and I think he said the clip was called "Tiny Guns," but it was flipping hilarious. So if you ever get a chance to check that out, by all means do it. But it was really cool seeing Kazi yesterday. He wanted to make it a point to make it to Rose's Cantina. I've been here for almost 4 years. That's my first trip to Rose's Cantina. I'd never actually been there. But it was really cool hanging out with him. And January yesterday, actually, as well, who he's dating, who used to be married to a friend of mine. Yeah, it's a very small world out there, folks. Just letting you know that. But it was great seeing Kazi yesterday. They did kind of get stuck in that storm that we had in El Paso, but they were making their way up to White Sands. And he said that up there with kind of the storms around it, he said it was just a beautiful picture up there with big rolling thunder over the like just the pristine white sands. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap up this edition of the AfterBuzz. Producer Dave, obviously not here today. He had his regular job because, of course, he doesn't get paid for this. So next time he's in, make sure you guys are thanking him for all the extra work. So all the stuff that you see that goes on while I'm doing this, if there's like a picture that's going to be right over here over my head, or you'll notice like the end screen would pop up right now, but it's not because he's not here. That's all him, man. That beginning screen too that we put up where it says starting soon and it's got the video in the background. It's got like Jim Brewer when he was in here and stuff like that. Man, I'm telling you, that's 100% Dave. So make sure you guys are thanking him immensely in next week's AfterBuzz when he's back to let him know that his work is appreciated because he ain't getting paid for any of this stuff. But on that note, have you guys have yourselves an amazing Wednesday. And we'll be back again 10:30 Mountain Time here on the KLEQ YouTube channel for the AfterBuzz. And, of course, bright and early tomorrow morning with the Buzz Adams Morning Show, 5 a.m. Mountain Time, which you can find. If you're not in the listening area, if you're not in El Paso, San Angelo, or Abilene, we do broadcast live on Facebook. But on that note, I say adieu to you.